97 of the Private Property Podcast. I'm your host, Uzamantungwa Khumalo. It's the Tuesday edition it's the Wednesday edition of the Private Property Podcast. Feel as though the week is not moving as fast as I'd like. And of course, if you're joining us for the first time, we are counting down to episode 300 of the only daily property podcast in South Africa. So you've certainly missed out on some great content on your screens. So do make sure that you go to our Facebook or our YouTube page to catch up on all the great content that we have already brought to your screens. And to all our regular viewers, from the Top Fan gang members on Facebook, as well as those watching us on YouTube, as well as on Instagram, welcome back. You know how we do it. Every single weekday at 7 p.m., you and I have an appointment where we're always in conversation with experts who help us navigate our property journey. And talking about helping us navigate our property journey, you can also look forward to a host of other great shows across Private Property's social media pages. As it is a Wednesday, you can catch Essie Clarkson, who's going to be bringing you the First Time Home Buyer show later on this evening at 8 p.m. And she's always in conversation with people who've not only walked that first time home buying journey, but have gone on to grow their property portfolios from strength to strength. And every Tuesdays and Thursdays, you can catch award-winning farmer Mbali Nwoko bringing you the Farming Podcast, where she tackles all things agriculture. So if you've got green fingers or certainly exploring, perhaps investing in the agricultural space, then that is a show you do not want to miss out on. Every Mondays and Friday, Chad brings you the Home Shoppers Show, where he gives us a great tour of properties that you can find on www.privateproperty.co.za. Those are the great programs that you can look forward to every single weekday at 8 p.m. across our social media pages. So do make sure that you're following us on Twitter, on Facebook, on YouTube, and Instagram, as well as on TikTok. You can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at @Zamantungwa_K as I talk all things relating to property. Now, this evening, we're going to be looking at digital developments for real estate agents. We all know that every industry has been hard hit and certainly been affected by COVID-19 and having to adapt to different ways of conducting business. We're going to be looking at various ways that estate agents can not only survive through this pandemic, but also thrive by using digital tools to do so, looking at different ways that they can connect to their customers and also still bring value in terms of good customer experience. I know that we've certainly seen some great tours, for example, of certain properties when you go to privateproperty.co.za, but not every listing has that. And I always say there are certain things that I want to see on a post already. So when you're looking at the pictures, you're looking at how a post is written, and then you're also looking at a video. And once those three sort of meet my criteria, then I go and book a viewing. But sometimes those three are already not meeting, your criteria. They're not looking too great. And given how spoiled for choice we are as consumers right now, then move on to the next one. So really looking at what are the different ways that estate agents can also look at succeeding in these unprecedented times. And to help us best get a good sense of some of these digital developments, I'm joined this evening by TerriDicks, who's a real estate agent at TerriDicks Properties that is powered by Kelly Williams, South Africa. Terri, good evening, and thank you so much for joining us this evening.
It's an absolute privilege to be with you, Samatunga.
It's so great to have you. I know it's the first time that we're having you on the show. I know we're probably going to have you a couple of more times on the show. And one of the things that we've already noted is how so many of us have had to do things differently because of COVID-19, whether it's working from home or having a hybrid kind of system. I think first let's look at some of the challenges that this has posed for estate agents, especially. I mean, if I reflect when we look at early last year, when we had the hard lockdown, obviously all of us could barely move. And as the country slowly sort of opened up, you found that the real estate industry was still quite hard hit, by COVID-19. Perhaps first let's start with a reflection on, how estate agents in particular, how they've essentially struggled with some of the challenges that they have faced in terms of their working environments because of COVID.
So, Zama, if I can just say, we are very warm and fuzzy people. Real estate people are very special people. They like they say, an animal in their own sort of league. And so we had to get used to now starting to work from home. There's no colleagues, there's no office, there's nobody, and everything is online. Your younger people, I think your millennials adapted a lot more quicker to this, but our elderly people are baby boomers, which there's a huge amount. I think at one stage the average agent was 57, and obviously the numbers have now changed, so they had to obviously make a lot of adaptations. I remember the first time I had to fill this COVID form in, and I had to take a temperature and do the sanitizing. It was quite overwhelming. And just the fact that a lot of the sellers were older people, they didn't want us there, and so you had the challenge of overcoming being between buyers and sellers, and it was really quite a very big adaptation for us. But how I've survived my business, fortunate I've spent a lot of time overseas. And I must just tell you, Zama, when I came back in sort of 2018, 2019, the South African market wasn't ready for videos and all the things that the overseas market have already prepared for, and they were already doing all of that. So we were very much into branding, marketing, social media, and now it's paid off because we know how to have a LinkedIn. We know how to go on Facebook. We know about all the various pages, the I Love pages. But you find that a lot of our baby boomers, they don't even know how to go on all these various platforms. So what I would say to realtors, if you don't have that, immediately get someone that can assist you. You cannot afford not to have it because, now all the days, I see baby boomers and realtors, they're just bombing out of real estate. They're not doing anything. Get a WhatsApp, database going where you sit on your phone and all you have to do, I've got just on my phone 23,000 people on a database. So sit on the database, connect with your people on the phone. You can video call them, you can Zoom call them. And yes, a lot of us didn't know how to even schedule all these Zoom calls, but learn how to do it. And Zuma, I don't do anything without videos. I've got a professional that takes all my photographs. Yes, I know I spend a lot of money on it, but I make sure that I have it done. And also, I'm in the development space, so I have got Reda Lombard. They are absolutely, I'm sorry, I don't know if I'm allowed to do this, but they are one of my favorite architectural firms. The minute I get land, I go and speak to them. I find out what I can do. And if I can just very quickly tell you a huge success story that we're busy with. I got a piece of ground, 55 hectare, and it happened to be in one of my clients that attended one of my workshops with regards to student accommodation, and he gave this land to me as student accommodation. I took it to the town planner and he said, no, T, don't do it like this. And Ramal explained to me exactly to do affordable housing. And obviously now I'm moving into a space, Zama, that I wasn't in before. I'm now doing affordable housing. I'm doing student accommodation. And now my clients that were commercial, that were buying shopping centers, we are completely changing that. I'm moving into industrial. I'm now learning about how to look at warehouses in the right space. And I'm looking at other retirement developments, putting that together. So obviously your town planner is key, your assisted living. So we as estate agents have to adapt. Then it's a buyer's market, then it's a seller's market. Yes, your price is key, but your town planner is key to find out where are these various developments going, where are these various pieces of ground going, or so on. So before, I wasn't selling hotels, I'm now selling hotels. So we have to, because the developers and investors are doing looking at different opportunities with all the various things that we're doing,
And Terri, you've actually mentioned some really great nuggets here, and it's one of the things that I was mentioning, right? Because when you look at, for example, buyers who are investor buyers, so they're not necessarily looking just for their primary residence, you tend to find that you need to be able to cater to them. And oftentimes we struggle to find estate agents that know how to cater to us as property investors. And I tweet about this quite a bit, where you'll sometimes find, for example, a piece of land that's, for sale, and they'll say, calling on all, entrepreneurs or developers without having adequately themselves as estate agents done the due diligence in terms of establishing, is this even something that's going to be feasible? Because if you're going to find a very interested buyer who knows their stuff, they're going to ask certain questions that I found that oftentimes estate agents don't have the answer to, and you end up not making that sale. Because when I just did that quick search, I know that that piece of land won't even be great for, let's say, rezoning. And yet in your ad, you said, this is zoned X and you can rezone it as something else. And I think those are some of the things that I tend to frustrate me as a property investor when I even look at ads, never mind some of the bells and whistles of, putting great pictures up, or even putting, a video tour up, just the pure basics, right? That I'm literally your target audience, and yet you are not meeting me at the level where I need to be met for us to even, start the relationship, never mind potentially walking the path together. I want to find out from viewers at home, when you go onto privateproperty.co.za and you're viewing different ads, what are the things that make you want to arrange a viewing? And this could be whether you're looking to buy an apartment to move in, or even looking to buy an investment property. What are some of those nuggets where, if they get this right, just at the ad alone, at the ad level, before we look at viewing the property, you're definitely going to arrange that viewing and go and view? Like I said earlier, I have my own criteria. When I read the ad, when I look at the pictures, if there are only, for example, 3 pictures, that's already for me a red flag. I wonder why there are only 3 pictures, especially if it's just pictures of the outside. And even if, let's say, it's an estate agent that is with a credible agency, I really just think this is potentially trouble, because why do you not at least have 7 pictures of the interior and different parts of the interior as well? So I want to find out from you at home, what are those great nuggets that when you see an ad on privateproperty.co.za makes you then arrange a viewing? And then what are those that are red flags? So let's look at the green and the red flags of a property ad. And this is, of course, going to be great insight for estate agents, because we are now sharing what we want to see and what we don't want to see. This is what will determine whether we make an appointment for the viewing. Never mind whether, the sale is going to go through, because it's obviously a funneling process. So this is what determines whether we're going to view to begin with. Now, Terri, and I love that you mentioned how sometimes some of the challenges with the boomers, and then of course the millennials, and how oftentimes they work differently. I mean, I follow a few estate agents on social media, and I've seen how the millennials make use of social media, use their own phones, so they're not even waiting for an expert photographer. They will do a reel of a particular property on Instagram, and they're using that themselves. They're using the latest music to play around with that, because they know that that's a great way to reach more people who could potentially either view the property or share it with somebody else. Even with the rental property, because I'm seeing a lot of this with rental properties as well, because that market is slightly different from those who are looking to buy. When we then look at some of the tools that estate agents can use to then connect with, their potential customers. Perhaps give us insights, especially because you've got, a training academy on how sort of both generations can survive this lockdown and the working conditions. As you were saying earlier, that the deeds office being closed does also obviously hamper sales going through. But the reality is there's a captive audience, meaning that there are customers who want to buy. How can they best reach those customers? Also bearing in mind that some of those customers are very tech savvy, like myself, and others are not as tech savvy. They're not really on Instagram or on TikTok using any of these things. They're just going to go on private property today, find the property and literally just either WhatsApp you or call you to make that appointment. So you're servicing, a nice broad range of different customers.
Yes, absolutely. So, Zamatunga, we've been fortunate to train with people that helped us to be brand ambassadors. So that's very important. I must tell you, I can freak when I go on Facebook and I see realtors have pictures of their dog or their little family or whatever when it's their business page. When it's your business page, have your logo, have your your details, and have your face on every single advertising material that you're doing. So I also try and make different videos, not always about property, but maybe of my life or what is happening in the industry, so that you become the information center. And now I'm busy looking at funnels. I'm working with FIFO to set up some sales funnels for me. If you look at the trends, how the American agents work, and if we have to adapt the new ways of surviving. I mean, sometimes my son says to me, "Mom, are you working at a call center because you're on your phone the whole day?" But you know what? You collaborate and you're just working completely different. So you're sending videos and, you're sending them links and all sorts of things, which we have to adapt now, that we can stay abreast of the market. And sorry, if I can just say one more thing. If we see a residential property, we've also got to start looking at different things, like your heading and the pages and pages that they write on the ads. Do something catchy, do it short, and do it to the point that a buyer can look at it and it's there. This is a multi-let. This is a flip. This is for Airbnb or whatever the case may be. But do as much homework as possible. I mean, today an agent gave me a hotel and I said to her, what are the possibilities? Who's the town planners? Can we extend? Can we do? And she said, no, that's for each buyer. I said, no, sweetie, we need to know all this information before we go to market. She said, no, but your investor can. I said, no, we've got to add value. We've got to know all these things.
Because
we've got
the reality is also, because I think, Terri, the reality is also that the investor is going to ask you these questions and they're going to expect that you know. And so if as an estate agent you don't know, then I already know that you're trying to sell something that you're not familiar with, where you don't understand, let's say, for example, rezoning, how long it takes, whether you can actually rezone to what you want to rezone to, because some of the properties, they'll say this is ideal for, student accommodation, or you can build a small complex, so you have to actually change the rezoning. They're not familiar with the bylaws of that particular municipality that, explicitly say that you can't rezone to that kind of building structure. So it says to me, you yourself have not done adequate research. So you're also selling it at the wrong level, because a really good investor would know and would be up to date with what can or cannot be done in an area that they're looking to invest in. And they'll obviously ask you certain questions. And sometimes these questions are asked because want to get a sense from the get-go, am I working with somebody who, gets what they're doing? I mean, there have been instances where I'm looking at buildings, you want the rent roll, for example, and we always question the rent roll, always sort of view it with a bit of skepticism, because sometimes the numbers are not an accurate reflection of the vacancy rate or the occupancy rate, and or even the price that's being paid. Because with some, they'll say, leases are in place. When I see copies of the lease, I'll say, no, some of them, aren't available, but it's month-to-month, leases. So you almost need to, as an estate agent, preemptively have a good sense of the property that you're looking at. Be clear of what some of the potential loopholes are, even bring them to the attention of the investor, because I'd rather know that, look, I'm about to buy a building that actually has 80% occupancy, and a good 80% of those living there don't have a written lease agreement, or it was in place, but they've all expired. So it's now actually a month to month. So when I come in, actually need to put the lease agreements in place, maybe make them a fixed term rental, be clear that, the current rental figures are lower than what the market asks for. Can I increase it? So you get a really good sense of what you're about to get yourself into. And it obviously does help you with negotiating, but beyond negotiating, you as an investor just get a good sense of the work that is ahead of you once you take over the property. And I think sometimes agents take for granted that we ourselves do our own due diligence. We'll sometimes go back, speak to the tenants, ask them how, have they signed the lease? How long have they been staying there? Is the place fully metered? Some of them, they'll tell you, no, it's actually not fully metered. Only, 20% of the units are metered. The rest of us, we've bridged the water and electricity and all these kinds of things. And when you want to conceal them, we find out. So I think it's such a great thing that estate agents are also aware that this is the reality of the investor that they're dealing with, that we're smart, we know what we're doing. We ourselves also do our own due diligence. So it's in your best interest to present us with a property knowing all the facts and presenting it accordingly.
You know what it is, Zamatunga, and please, I would love to, that's what I train our people on, and that is, what do you do? What information are the investors going to ask? Because when they're new in the market, they don't know. So they don't have that information on hand. They don't know the FAR, the density, the coverage, how many units per hectare. They look at you, well, what? Did I have to put that all in my ad? How long is the rezoning going to take? If the seller is going to do his own rezoning, how much would it cost? What would the proclamation be? Are there services? They don't know to even ask for this, and so I think there's just not enough training on that, so we can certainly do that. And I'll give you one example. I'm busy with a share deal, 40 million with an investor, and he wants to buy this whole block of apartments, 1 block of apartments, 2 weeks. I don't have the rent roll. I don't have the income. I don't have the expenses. I don't have the financials. And before you go on the market, you got to know that the minute your phone starts to ring, you've got to have a file with that all on, on a
because we are I think that,
yes,
because the very basics is you must have an investor pack. Because often when I look at buildings, whether it's for residential use or commercial use, but the moment I'm looking at a building, I want the investor pack. I don't even want to ask you questions individually. Send me the pack. Then if there are any gaps that I find in the pack, I'll ask questions. In the event where you're selling a building and there's no investor pack, that's a red flag. And I think it's so important for estate agents to also take note of that. Terri, as we're running out of time, I want to then find out from you, how can estate agents also thrive or set up their digital business, because the reality of being an estate agent is that you're running a business. We're increasingly moving to the digital space. And so it's also about understanding the nature of building and growing a digital business at the core of it. In as much as you are selling a physical asset, you are running a digital business, and you need to be able to adequately run it and facilitate the sale of this physical asset. So what tips would you give to estate agents when it comes to setting up and ultimately thriving in their digital business?
So I would say one of the first things they need to do is get a business page on all their portals, and they have got to become familiar. Their photographs, it's not even negotiable. Their photographs have got to be there. Their logos have got to be there. The information has got to be there on their business, and they've got to make videos, of their business, and they've got to post regularly. Zamatunga, not that I'm a perfectionist. I've also, slacked a little bit on all this stuff because you're so busy and there's so much happening. But I'm very aware of it, and I know that I need to keep on working on it. That your business must have a voice. You must have a voice. And the minute you have a mic, the people notice you. And they become familiar with you, become known in your communities, be on all the I Love pages. A lot of it is moved to Telegram. You've got to be on there. You've got to be visible and post regularly. You have to take your business online. And you know what? Like my son, who's very, very successful at Pam Golding, he says, Mom, real estate has never, ever been easier. Everything is digital. Everything is with videos. What a pleasure. You send the videos. You say to the client, would you still like to see it? And he says yes or no. He says, sit and work from a coffee shop. How much easier can it be?
And Terri, before I let you go, and you've made reference to other markets, for example, the US and how they're doing things. Where do you see us certainly going when it comes to where real estate agents and how they're going to be conducting business in the future going? And of course, digitizing as much as possible, and as much as we know that this, property is a people's business, and it's so important for us to physically connect, we also need to be making use of digital tools that facilitate a lot of that connection.
I think it's going to be a lot more videos. It's going to be funnels, and we're going to be visible on the portals. And I just look forward to that. My partner is also in the digital space, and he gives courses to agents on how to digitalize their businesses. He gives video courses, so I can help them a lot to baby steps to start. They don't have to do everything at once, and they don't have to boost and pay a lot of money. They can start slowly, and we can help them to build, and they can just they don't have to reinvent anything. They can just copy and watch what the successful and the top brokers are doing.
And I think that's such a great place to leave it at. Terri, thank you so much for joining us this evening.
Thank you very much. It's an honor for me to have been with you, Mtunga. Thank you very much. Take good care.
Thank you very much. And that is TerriDicks, who is a real estate agent at TerriDicks Properties. That's powered by Kelly Williams, South Africa. And that brings us to the end of this evening's episode of the Private Property Podcast with myself, Uzamantu Khumalo. We'll be back on your screens tomorrow evening at 7 p.m. It is a Wednesday, so you can catch Esty Claassen on the First Time Home Buyers Show at 8 p.m. Until then, hoping you're staying home and staying safe.